What up, what up? Welcome to another episode of The Mindful Warrior, baby. Nate, good to be back with you, brother.
It's great to be back. It's been a while. Well, a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks. We've been on the down low for a couple weeks now, but good to be back in the studio with Jed. Very excited for today. We've got Gandalf as well, our resident pit. Got a very special guest for you guys tonight.
And welcome to the stage.
You know, I had a show on NPR in Jacksonville that came out. It was a night show. It's pretty cool. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. We got Chris Borland.
Humble brag.
Chris Borland in the house. Really stoked to have Chris. Going to talk about, his career, football, CTE with the, New York Times article that was released recently. I'm sure we'll touch on that today, and meditation and, solutions to this brain trauma that's affecting so many guys' lives. And
a little background on Chris. Chris did you play 1 year in the league?
1 year in the league.
1 year in the NFL for the San Francisco 49ers. Had an awesome year. This was in 2015 or 14?
14. Yeah.
And then walked away from the game because he had a personal awakening and decided it wasn't worth it. And we're going to get into all that. But I think we should start at the beginning, because here at the Mindful Warrior, we're interested in an athlete's arc. How did it start? How do you gain strength? How do you find your peace afterwards? So where are you from?
I'm originally from Kettering, Ohio. It's in southwest Ohio by Dayton, near Cincinnati. Very much a hotbed of football.
Right. You were saying, we were talking before this, and you were saying that when baby boys are born in some of those towns, they have a little football in the...
Yeah, there's still a few smaller towns in Ohio where every baby boy gets a football in its bassinet when it's born.
What is a bassinet?
It's like a little, like a baby bed.
Like a baby bowl.
Yeah, it's like the little baby bed.
Yeah, yes. So literally born into it. There's places where it's the fabric of the community. I'm not really from one of those places, but they're all over southwest Ohio.
Is your father or was your father a football fan?
Big time. Yeah, he grew up in Green Bay or in Madison and was a huge fan of the Packers in the 60s. So yeah, we were Roman Catholic growing up. We probably learned more lessons through Lombardi than Jesus. It was 15 minutes early, 5 minutes late, all these things. My dad was very much a proponent of that. And then he went on and played in college at Miami University in Ohio. So he played middle linebacker. So
football was really a part of your family in general, just your family history, how you were brought up? Very much, yeah. I think it goes back to my dad's dad. He played with Alan Amici, who was Heisman Trophy winner, one of Wisconsin's probably best football player ever in high school. Amazing.
And then, like I said, my dad grew up in Madison there during the heyday of the Packers. So I've got 5 brothers, and we were all born into this essentially a locker room. Wow. Yeah. So when did you start playing football? Like, how did you personally come to the game? That's a unique story for the history I just detailed, because my dad made us wait until high school. Oh, interesting. I don't think the concerns had anything to do with that injury. I think it predates any of that talk. But maybe he just didn't want to pay for the emergency room bill, having 6 boys playing football. However, I think with his experience, he knew intuitively some of the things that you face, particularly if you've got athletic sons who are going to go on and play perhaps in college. Yeah. So he just wanted to delay some of that. Interesting.
Did you play any other sports?
I played everything under the sun growing up. A ton of soccer, a ton of basketball, tennis, baseball, track and field, swimming, diving. I tried to play it all.
What'd you like the best?
Soccer is probably my first love. I love baseball, but when I was 5 to 10 years old, I didn't feel like I got to do anything. Yeah. Just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And in soccer, I got to play center mid and touch the ball and really control the game. So I was drawn to that and just played so much over the years.
And you were a middle linebacker, so you had to be a badass. So were you a rough kid? Did you get in fights?
I was very rough. Yeah, I'm the 6th in line in my family. So my brothers just used to just beat the. Is this a family show?
Say shit. No.
You can say whatever you'd like to say, Chris.
Yeah, my older brothers would beat the shit out of me. So yeah, I had no choice, and I enjoyed it. We were rough and tumble, and yeah, some fights, but most of it was just roughhousing.
So by the time freshman year came around, you got to put on pads. You were just excited to not be going up against your brothers anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I you know how it is with kids. They'd call me like a grass fairy and ask why I didn't play football.
Yeah. Grass fairy.
Yeah, and other things. And you know, I'm built like my dad. Shorter, stockier kid, low center of gravity, good balance. So these coaches would ask every year, like, why aren't you playing football? So it was this huge, for me, anticipation. I think, too, for some of my friends who, you know, I was a good athlete, they wanted me on the team in anticipation for them. So once I got to unleash it in ninth grade, I think it took about 5 to 10 minutes before I knew, holy shit, like I've always wanted to do this, and now I'm finally doing it.
Wow, that's cool. What was your high school? What positions did you play in high school? Were you always a linebacker?
No, I didn't play linebacker until Wisconsin. So running back was my first position, and then I'd play some receiver. They'd throw me in on defense to just either get the ball or guard somebody. What they called it badger. It wasn't a real position. I never learned anything, but and I punted too, so kind of did a lot.
Cool. And then, so, I mean, you were an offensive guy, and at Wisconsin, did you get a scholarship there?
I did, yeah.
So you were in a scholarship to Wisconsin, and
Did you have any high school injuries at all?
I did have a concussion in 10th grade, and had stress fractures in my left foot, but I only missed one game for each.
So the concussion, you were diagnosed with a concussion?
Yeah, I was stumbling off the field and pulled out of the game and everything, yeah.
Right. That was concussion number 1?
2.
Number 2?
Yeah, in 8th grade, playing soccer, actually, was knocked unconscious, so... Yeah, 10th grade was my second.
Oh.
Interesting. What? So when you get to Wisconsin, how does that journey unfold of getting to Mike linebacker and becoming this guy who gets drafted in the 3rd round by the Niners?
You know, at the time, I thought it was kind of normal, but looking back, I see how quickly things happen. I showed up to Wisconsin in the summer of 2009. They sent me a playbook after signing day, and I was at a point where I didn't know enough to even ask questions based off the playbook. I get to Wisconsin that summer and go through workouts that go well, but when we started football in camp, I can remember our linebacker coach, Dave Dorn, talking about gaps. And he was, you know, you want the A gap, the B gap. And at that point, I didn't know if the A gap was on the left side, and then the B gap was on the right side, and the C gap. So, I mean, I'm starting from not even square one, but play my ass off in camp, play on all the special teams, and they put me in on our 3rd down package because I was a good pass rusher. I was not prepared to play stand-up linebacker. I hardly knew coverages. I would do spin moves and inside drill. I was a mess. Athletic and would go hard, but a mess. Learned enough to, midway through the year, our starting wheel linebacker went in for him and wound up winning Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So I went from in 6 months not knowing what the gaps are to, you know, being a
Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
Yeah, at
Unreal.
linebacker.
Well, I mean, that says a lot about hard work and going hard and just committing to it, man. I mean...
So in college, were you committing yourself to the classroom as well? Were you studying hard? Did you know that you eventually wanted to be involved in what you're doing now?
No. Honestly, when I started out, I went to a good high school and did well in high school. That first semester at Wisconsin, like we were talking about with the learning curve and being baptized by fire, probably focused on football most of the time. I don't think it's a unique experience. I had the ability to put in minimal effort and do okay in school. So with that in hand, it was football.
What was your major?
History. As I went through school, I became a better student. That first semester and in a couple semesters where I had surgery, you know, wasn't all that focused on school, but towards the end of my career, I was our student athlete of the year, my senior year. So graduated and AB student.
4 years in college?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, I had an injury my sophomore year where I took a medical red shirt.
Right on. And then the Niners drafted you in the 3rd round?
Yep.
Right on.
77th pick.
All right.
Yeah.
And where were you for that draft?
I was in my hometown. Our family had a little get-together with some friends, and nothing big, but kind of quaint. I didn't know where I'd go. It was kind of a wild card for me because I had some injury history. I'm undersized, so I heard everything from last pick in the first round through 7th round.
Right.
So we
all those experts on TV who know how it's going to go down,
Right.
who get paid big money to write these mock charts, man.
Yeah.
These people don't know shit.
Oh my
They
god,
have no idea what's going on, but there's a whole market around the hype.
that was insanity.
Yeah.
was
You were a
insane.
second round pick?
The mock drafts at certain points, I was like as high as
Top
number
10.
9. I was
You're
like
like,
number 9. I was like, boom, baby.
I think you were 6.
I was like 6 at one point. It was too much information for that guy to handle.
And it's super stressful, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like
Yeah, it's
at
it's
the
a
mercy
shit show.
at the mercy of everyone else.
Yeah,
It's weird. Football is like you climb to the very, very top. You're the best in the world, and you control no aspect of it.
yeah.
Nothing.
Other than your play.
But even your plays dictated by the way you line up, the technique they teach you, the plays that are, I mean,
So you're
especially
saying-
offensively.
You're saying we're just robots out there.
Essentially, yeah. Offensive players especially.
I'd say offense more than defense.
Yeah, defense is like human pack hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to watch humans
yeah.
hunt another human,
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what
That's, that's football. That's the game of football.
Yeah,
Broken
exactly.
down. It's people hunting people.
But we're working on health and safety. That's what we're committed to.
Yeah.
All right? We're committed to advancing health
Hey,
and safety.
did you see the letter they wrote?
About
Offering the PA, man. Hey,
Yeah.
maybe we should start looking at this stuff as an alternative for pain management.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens.
we'll
but
see. We'll see.
Yeah, apparently, for the audience, the NFL has apparently reached out to the NFLPA asking to work on looking into cannabis as a pain management thing. So they say. They're getting a lot of heat. I think it's smart for them to do that, though. But where were we? College.
Where were we?
Oh no, you got drafted.
The draft.
Yeah.
Your third round, 77th overall.
3rd round.
So did Jimmy Harbaugh give you a call and say, "Chris,
He did, yeah.
Chris!
Harbaugh-
Chris,
You ready to rock?
who's got it better than us?"
Enthusiasm.
Nobody.
Enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Yeah, Harbaugh called me.
So his false enthusiasm must have had something to do with you being like, "I'm out."
Oh no. I mean,
Sorry. So I just
Really
don't know how many
good
times
job.
I could hear a coach say, "Who's got it better than us?" When I'm like, "Fuck, man."
Nobody. It's a nice thought, man.
It is. It's a college,
It's a good
high school
philosophy.
philosophy.
Well,
Yeah.
he obviously it was in and out, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But he did well. He did very well in San Francisco.
For a minute with a team that was fucking primed
Yeah, but 2 or 3, NFC Championship games. That was a very good team.
and a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Or,
and a Super
I
Bowl.
mean, at the Super Bowl.
But wins. Yeah.
Blackout.
I mean, you might know more about this than us, huh?
Why the fuck are we talking about?
Hey man, I wonder what it was like
the
on the
analysts,
Niners,
man. Fuck the guys that are getting paid, man.
so we were just talking about people that get paid for not knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking with you.
We're not getting paid, man.
Okay.
Let's hear about it.
No, I liked playing for Harbaugh, and
That's cool.
I did. I get what you're saying, but
I'm just being a dick.
no. And there's obviously a lot of
That's my role in this show.
there's a lot of truth,
He
a
is.
lot of
We've
truth
talked about
to
it.
what you're saying. But what I respect about Harbaugh is that to him it's genuine, and he goes like that's how he is all day, every day. So it's not really contrived. It is. I mean, it can be corny and end of camp. Who wants to hear that line? But to him, it's genuine, and I respect
enthusiasm.
that.
Yeah,
goes
and
a
you
long way.
appreciated it as a player, and that's really
Well,
all
it
that
works for
matters.
Pete Carroll as well. That kind
Yeah.
of same actually,
The Robert, I can see how it would,
Yeah.
it would wear on old
does-
guys.
It works if you're winning. I think is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good
If
point.
you're like 3-13, who's got it?
But
No,
you're also
man.
so getting back into the football stuff. You're getting drafted to a team that has literally 2 of the best in the game at linebacker, Pat Willis and Navarro Bowman. And I mean that's got to be pretty cool to be coming into that and being able to learn from those guys.
I was thrilled. I don't know if you could have walked into a better situation as a middle linebacker. Navarro was out for the year, so that other spot was up for grabs next to Pat. And then in front of you got Justin Smith, you've got Alden Smith, you got Ahmad Brooks. One of the best front sevens, I think, in the last decade
Wait a
plus.
minute. Was your first game against the Bears?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was there. I was playing against you.
yeah. Wow.
That's fucking nuts,
wow.
dude.
I had no
Crazy.
idea.
Just clicked.
Neither of us read the scouting report.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
can't
that
remember.
thick, stupid thing.
No, I had just been brought back because they cut me after training camp.
Oh, wow.
And then they brought me back week 2,
Wow.
and that was my first game.
Do you remember that catch Brandon Marshall made?
Oh, dude, it was fucking sick, man. Brandon he had an amazing game.
Yeah.
And Alshon as well, I think. That was a big game for us because then I think the next week we went to New York and beat the Jets. So we were pretty pumped about it. Season ended up terribly. But those were 2 big games.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
back to you, Chris.
Yeah, so drafted 77th overall, and I get into that situation where there's a starting spot up for grabs in one of the best defenses and front sevens in football. So I was working my ass off. The playbook was similar to what we'd switched to my senior year at Wisconsin. So I had some exposure to the 3-4, and I thought I had a pretty good camp. For me, adjusting mentally wasn't a huge challenge. The speed obviously is a huge jump from college to pro.
Yeah.
And we had some more complex things in our defense with Vic Fangio than I had in college. So wound up losing the starting spot to Mike Wilhoit. Again, like my freshman year in college, and like you guys can attest to, you always get your opportunity when someone ahead of you gets hurt. And midway through the year, Pat hurt his toe, Patrick Willis. So I came in, first start was against the Broncos in Denver. Peyton Manning was on the verge of breaking the all-time touchdown record, and he broke it that night on us on Sunday Night Football.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We gave up 42 points, and I thought, oh shit, like this isn't going to be a good year for us or me as a first-time starting linebacker. And then Pat, they didn't know if he'd come back or not, so I thought I was filling in for 1 week, and then it turned into 2 and 3, and then ultimately he was put on IR. But
you fucking balled, man.
Yeah, after that first game with Denver, then we had a bye week. That bye week couldn't have come at a better time. A bad first start and a chance to learn, and then we had the Rams at home coming off the bye week, and we played well as a defense. I probably had one of my best games of the year, but we lost in overtime. So again, 0-2 to start it off, and then we rolled off some games after that.
Yeah, you had like 11, 12 tackles a game type shit.
It started out hot, yeah.
You know why I know that is because of fantasy football. And it's so fucked up, but the truth is that around that time, guys like defensive player, we had one defensive player that you get, and the tackles a point of tackle.
Oh wow!
And so everyone's looking for that defensive player who's hot to pick him up for that game.
Okay.
And you were that guy.
Wow! I'm honored.
It's just funny how the tentacles of the game, reach into these other markets.
So I learned about fantasy for defensive players when I was playing because people would tell me just that. I had no idea it existed.
We would have all offense but one defensive player.
I see.
You're only allowed one. And yeah, man, that's you.
Did you have me? Was I on your team?
No, I tried to get you.
I know what you're saying.
I tried to pick you up.
Chris, what was your body feeling like?
I was good physically.
Yeah,
this was your first
good?
rookie year.
Yeah, I was a rookie.
You're feeling fresh.
You feel really good as a rookie.
Yeah. I didn't have any.
How about mentally? I mean, what was how was your mind?
Oh, it was a strange year for me mentally. Was looking into the research available on CTE and some of the tragedies that have happened. While I was playing?
Yeah, how did you get into that? Why did you start to go there?
Yeah. I was concussed in camp.
Oh, right, because you had a history of concussion.
Yeah.
So how many had you had when that?
That one in camp, 8th grade and 10th grade were ones that were diagnosed.
Looking back.
Nothing more than those 2 of that severity. But, it wasn't a thing until I was in high school. Yeah. It wasn't. None of this was in the public discourse.
Did you have any discernible mood issues, trouble concentrating, sleeping, sensitivity to light when you were in college?
After my freshman year, I had a concussion against Wofford and had some of those symptoms persist throughout the week, but nothing that lingered beyond that. It was a tough week, and then I played in the next game and felt fine, at least. I don't know if anything has come back since then, but the 2 concussions were just like one-time events.
Right. So then you had the one in the pros. week. What you said?
It was
In training
right
camp?
before our third preseason game.
Okay.
Um,
Before your rookie year.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And it wasn't nothing we haven't experienced. I was filling on a lead play, and it was just a huge collision in the hole, and was seeing stars and a little woozy. I stayed in. I think part of that thinking was being a rookie.
Yeah, you're trying to make the fucking team.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've always played with the chip on my shoulder as a smaller player. So yeah, I stayed in there, but began thinking about the ramifications. I mean, I'd heard the acronym CTE. I didn't know what it stood for.
Was there any talk of that in the locker room? Are guys aware of it? Did the trainers ever talk about it?
There was no talk.
They don't even mention those letters there.
No, I never.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And even I can remember the Niners owner is the head. He was. I don't know if he still is the head of player safety for ownership.
Isn't player safety kind of an oxymoron?
Yeah. No, we can talk about that. But he spoke at the symposium, and I don't think he mentioned, let alone CT. I don't think he mentioned the word concussion.
Right.
It's such a forbidden term.
It's a public relations battle with them right now. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like, don't say these trigger words. Yeah. It's the same in the cannabis world. You know, you can't say marijuana or weed or
Don't
smoke
say
or
weed.
get high. It's these words
God
that scare
forbid.
people, but once they start admitting to it, then they're going to make themselves more liable for, in court.
Yeah, and I think it's, semantics are important. Like when they say head injuries, when someone tears their ACL, you say, John Player tore his ACL. You don't say lower extremity injury.
Right.
Like instead of saying head injury, let's call it what it is.
A concussion.
A concussion or a brain injury.
Well, because concussions are very difficult to diagnose, though, aren't they? I mean, how many have you had? You don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't know.
I have no idea.
I wouldn't tell you if my head hurt. Not if I want to stay on the field, type of shit.
No.
And so, what is a concussion?
True. Yeah.
You know more than I do.
Yeah.
Can you define one?
You can give a boilerplate definition, but I don't even think the scientific community has an agreed upon objective measure of what a concussion is.
Right.
You can say a head injury that causes dizziness, tinnitus, ringing in the ears, nausea, headache, but there's conflating factors. I think a lot of times neck injuries can actually cause some of those things.
Right.
So, there's not a consensus, but at the same time, referring it to as a head injury when the guy's nauseous on the sideline,
right.
It's a brain injury.
Right. Yeah, the war of semantics, and everyone in the media plays along as well, not just the owners, not just the coaches and the trainers, but those guys who have experienced those things, who are in the booth calling a game, like Troy Aikman. He could say, what's really going on, and he won't, because they can't. They're hype men. They're selling a product. But
it's a fascinating topic. I mean, thinking back to my career, and being very real with myself about the fact that, I used to think I was a guy that never experienced a concussion. But looking back, I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind I experienced a concussion. There was one in particular in Chicago that I knew at that time I was concussed. Or I had this really dark feeling, which was followed by, a few days of real serious fucking depression. Like, whoa, what's wrong with me? I remember the hit, and it was in practice. It was with a linebacker. It was like a star flash, the fireworks explosion. But thinking back, man, the game to me, it was about being so violent and dominating people that, the head aspect, using your head, it was, I wasn't trying to break my neck by any means, but my head was another weapon. My head was a tool at my disposal, and, that star, that crack, and those experiences where you have that really hard collision where you come out of it and you don't feel that daze, when you feel like you really, were the victor in that collision.
Yeah.
I think we all love that feeling. That's like that feeling that we're all expecting and looking for each time we go in for that, intense collision on the field. But
does that mean that the other guy always feels the actual?
Exactly.
Every win you had is just like shortening this dude's life.
Yeah. How many times in your career were there those collisions? It's like, countless.
So it can be pretty safely assumed that we all have head trauma. We all have probably
To
CTE,
some degree. To
right?
some degree.
111 out of 112 brains have been cut open and discovered to have it, depending if you validate that research. But the chances are that our brains have been affected by this, right? So why are some of us symptomatic and some of us are not? I think that's what we have to find out.
Right.
And cannabis might help.
Yeah.
Alleviate the symptoms. That's what we're betting on.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Right.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, yeah, I think first off, talking about the BU study, 110 out of 111 brains is an overwhelming statistic. It is important to address that it's a biased sample.
For sure.
But still, and they don't claim that it's not. It's a case study, but that's just one important thing to talk about.
No doubt.
That said, there's been enough research elsewhere, funded by the NCAA and NFL too. It's clearly connected.
Yeah.
NFL's admitted it at this point, so it's that ship sailed.
Right.
I'm absolutely on board as cannabis is a tool to help former players struggling. I think anecdotally there's been a lot of players to have tremendous results from using it. And when you look at the alternatives,
it's not sustainable.
Opioids or drinking or self-medicating.
Exactly.
There's tools to use, and I think cannabis is a great one.
There's something really intense too about when you're in the NFL, you're being pumped full of a lot of drugs all the time. I mean, injections, anti-inflammatories all year long, and pain pills. And when you leave, you actually leave that environment 100%, and you have to wean yourself off of that constant pharmacology.
Yeah.
And I only use cannabis now. I don't take any pills whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a more holistic practice.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean,
But it's hard to get there, and there's no programs to ease people off of all those drugs.
And a lot of people are looking at cannabis as this, gnarly street drug that only hippies and degenerates use. You know what I mean?
What's funny?
How could that be a viable option to the pills that my doctor's giving me? And that's really, I think, a big border in a lot of people's minds.
Do you guys watch Ballers by any chance? On HBO?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so they just started their third season. So they use all NFL logos. They use the teams. They use the players. So they're basically sponsored by the NFL. This is state propaganda that the NFL does. They have editorial control over the product, and they obviously approve everything that goes into these storylines and the way it's written. And they haven't
really?
They have to, because all the NFL logo stuff
is all in it.
And there's this new narrative thread about the team moving to Vegas and
there's a cannabis thread now.
And there's a cannabis thread, and you see both sides of the argument that they do. And the player's like, no, it's about CBD. And the league representative guy's like, no, you just want to get high, man.
Yeah.
Like that,
Right.
And so it's like the league is influencing media narratives and even entertainment narratives with these really trite understandings of the actual issue. They don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And the NFLPA doesn't have the knowledge either to go to the negotiating table and say, this is what it is. No. Here's the science. This is what we're demanding. But I don't know. I mean, the NFL wanting to work with the NFLPA is a good sign.
That's a good step.
Yeah.
It's a big step. And I think that they feel as though they need to start addressing these things.
Chris, they would listen to you, man. I mean, you're the one guy they would listen to. They won't listen to me. And they'll listen to Evan, but they won't listen to me.
Who knows? Well, I think that this, what you're doing is really fantastic. I think let's just finish up. How did that season end for you? What was the end of that season that led you into this off season where you were ready to leave the game?
Well, on the field, continued to play pretty well, but tore a few ligaments in my ankle mid-December, so I missed the last 2 games, and we missed the playoffs by 1 game. So kind of a sour end to the year. Off the field, I was looking in more depth to the CTE issue.
So while you were playing, you were looking into CTE?
Yeah.
While you were balling, while you were getting picked up on people's
nuts.
Fantasy squads, you were at home what the fuck?
Yeah, reading about the BU Brain Bank, reading about players who shot themselves in the chest, reading about
that is heavy, man.
Other research.
Damn.
Yeah, and then
That's
make 18
amazing.
tackles on Sunday. So I had to go to a weird place to get motivated.
Wow. So how did you get motivated?
Yeah, what?
I think part of it was being a rookie. I felt like I didn't share any of this information I was looking into because I didn't want to be a burden to other guys.
Where'd you first find it?
I just started doing Google searches during camp. Led me to Boston University, a few other universities. Led me to the stories about players. Read League of Denial, read Throwaway Players, read a few other books. And by December, really knew that my career would be very brief. And I was still holding on to the possibility of playing for 3 years. But as the off season went on, I just thought, if you're going to make a life change, make it now. Money and fame never factored in to me playing football or leaving football. So,
what about your roots, where you're from, and your family, and the football town? Did that have anything to do with what you were feeling?
Yeah, and I think subconsciously, I think it was just ingrained in me. And it's still difficult. We were talking beforehand about going home, and people in Kettering, Ohio, just act like I didn't quit football.
Really?
Sometimes they'll just talk about high school time, highlights or college stories, and they kind of shirk that issue, which maybe they just don't want to get into it. And I don't.
People want to believe in their myths and the things that make them excited, man. And when someone pokes a hole in that, it scares them.
Yeah,
people don't want to confront it.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason people don't address this head on is it's what they do for fun. I mean,
Yes.
if this was a public health concern that was monotonous, this was nutrition, or maybe you'll talk about it. But this is your deviation from normalcy. This is me going on the weekend and just having a pleasure.
It's their escape.
Yeah, it's
Your reality.
It's theater for them,
Right.
and they don't want to ruin that.
What? So, when did that decision become clear to you?
Oh, I probably knew by February.
Really?
For sure.
So you hadn't even. So did you? You just went home. Did you talk to anybody about it? Did you?
Yeah, I was able to talk to some researchers at Boston University, and then Julian Bales.
Did you talk to your parents?
and
I
another-
was talking about with family.
I
and
thought
shit.
you were talking about the decision.
You're like, fuck that. I'm going to talk to the doctors and the
mom-
researchers, man.
My mom doesn't know shit about neurology. No, I that was. I'm from a big family, so I had to relive that tough decision
Yeah.
9 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. All your older brothers.
It's hard.
How do they feel about it?
It was probably a mixed reaction at first. I think the further research has come out these past couple of years.
Because it was like you had finally reached what everyone knew
The
you
pinnacle.
could be.
Yeah.
You took over the starting role on this venerable fucking team, you know.
Yeah.
And what's up, dude? and yeah, you took it over, man, and you reached the mountaintop, and you're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think it was a shock to a few of them.
Scary for people. Scary for people to confront what that means for themselves, That thing, that pinnacle that they said was like the
That's
mountaintop.
That's where it's
You
all
said
perfect.
no.
Yeah, and it's like a fast food commercial. Like they only ever see the commercial where like the food is staged and the seeds are glued on. And
Perfect
it's just
Big
this
Mac.
big, beautiful. And then we're behind the counter, and you get a better understanding of what it's really about. And
You're in the factory, dude. You're
yeah.
not behind the counter.
Yeah. So I think they've come to terms with it. They're all supportive right off the bat, of course. I come from a great family, but I had one brother in particular who just flat out disagreed.
Well, you're like, hey, brother,
Yeah,
this is
good-
my life.
Yeah, they have
Thanks.
they have tryouts if you want to play next year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did any of your brothers play professionally?
One brother played soccer briefly
cool.
professionally. Everybody did a sport in college, but
Nice.
I got all the height in my family. So
Wow.
nobody played in the pros.
That's awesome.
So now that you're done, tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I just launched a company a couple months ago called T Mindful. The genesis of this company came from a pilot study that we did at the University of Wisconsin. There's a researcher there named Richie Davidson that's proven that meditation actually changes your brain physiologically. So I approached Richie after I'd quit, and a lot of people were, reaching out to me for therapies in transition and post-career. And I said, Richie, I've been approached by people peddling these pseudotherapies and this snake oil. Is there any credibility to meditation? Now, he couldn't say it would help with brain damage. That'd be inappropriate. But it's a tool that gives you a little bit of space between your reaction to a stimulus and a genuine response.
That's proven. The space.
Yeah. That's a.
What do you mean by space?
So that's a really vague way to put it. There's proof that it does everything from lower your blood pressure to reduce stress, on and on and on.
Yeah.
All I mean by that is throughout our life we always have these sharp instances where your brain reacts. An untrained brain
Yeah.
would just spout off. Someone cuts you off, rage. Someone breaks up with you, sadness. When you cultivate these practices, it's been proven that you're able to view it more objectively,
Right.
and your brain goes back down to baseline faster.
I've experienced that for sure.
It's amazing. It's your brain can't always tell the difference between a thought and an action. So Richie'd put Tibetan monks in fMRI machines and had them meditate while hooked up to scanners, and you can actually see neural activity in regions of their brain when they practice certain types of meditation.
It's crazy.
So we did a pilot study with him and former NFL players in Madison. It went tremendously well. And then I thought we can do this for active players, and ultimately I want to grow Team Mindful and being able to provide things for former players and communities that need.
I think that's awesome, man. This should be, every team should start having meditation, like a meditation section of the day. I think it's so important for football players, thinking back. I've started meditating. I think meeting you and that first conversation we had on the phone, months ago, I was just sort of getting into meditation, but after our conversation, it really, inspired that even more. And, getting into it, man, I think the science is real. My experience has been tremendous in what you're saying and creating space between me and my reactions to things. It's been unbelievable in my relationship with my wife, my family, how I relate to my friends, how I experience the world. It's fucking profound. And I think that, and I'm so, I wish that I could have meditated when I played, but, like you said, I don't know if you're in that mindset to even be able to, I think that, getting some mindfulness.
Yeah, because you don't want any space between thought and action in that world. You have to do everything like.
And
Yeah, but it's really important for former players, man, to find that space.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think, this whole situation we're seeing with CTE and really, the physiology of what's going on in football in general, of the constant banging of the head. Your frontal lobe is where all the executive decision making is, the impulse control, all this super important shit for life, outside of football, that young men are fucking destroying, ravaging, for years and years, because, you're trained and you love this game and you don't realize the damage that's really coming down the line. I mean,
it's. I think awareness is better now, and even before you get into the physiological ramifications of a traumatic brain injury, just the biomechanics, that was enlightening to me. And I don't think everybody knows something as simple as your brain sits unfastened within your skull.
Right.
I don't think most active players at the high school level
Understand.
would be able to answer that.
Yeah.
Which is such an elementary concept, and that explains the injury.
Yeah.
So you hear people talk about helmets or other things. No,
Right.
The brain's always going to move inside the skull.
Well, which is something Nate has spoken very eloquently about, which is another reason why cannabis, all of this stuff we're talking about, it's like that's why meditation is so crucial for these guys right now. What we know about the game, let's just make it better, with what we have, otherwise the game is it's gonna fade away. I think it's gonna be too dangerous. It's gonna go the way of the Roman gladiators.
But the thing is, we'll always have that appetite for blood and danger and violence.
Well, I don't know.
So
We've
how
got
do we
basketball and baseball, and our society's getting softer and softer.
No, that's never gonna end.
MMA.
We
got
want
the
blood.
UFC.
We want blood.
I'm
What
with
happens?
Nate.
Okay, well,
I'm
listen.
with Nate.
Okay, listen to this. Listen to this.
Whenever there's a big
Okay.
bomb that goes off or a shooting, we are there with our cameras trained on the blood, and we want every little
I
gory
know.
detail.
You're absolutely right.
That's not going to go away.
There is a taste for blood.
We got to empower the athletes, man. We got to empower
Okay,
the players.
talk about cannabis. When it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it goes in there and it creates this foamy padding around the brain cells.
Right.
Talk about that a minute.
You know more about that than I do, but it could be considered a second helmet.
Exactly. Basically, what it goes in and does is it forms a foamy padding around your brain, your neurons.
It's like
around
lifting
your
weights for the
neurotransmitter.
brain.
So it's essentially, like you're saying, our brain is floating in this viscous fluid in our skull. It's not fixed to anything, right? So that's why concussions happen, because it's bouncing around in there. So what science is suggesting they've seen is that cannabinoids, when they get into the brain, they form this protective coating around the brain, around brain cells, protecting it inside the skulls, which makes it, if that, proves to be true, I think that, if it hasn't already proven to be true.
Well, the implications are that...
Doesn't that seem like a no-brainer for the NFL to look at this with the problems that are at
because
hand?
It would mean fewer concussed players, fewer former players with dementia, and fewer reasons to sue the league, which is what they're most afraid of. They don't care if some guys have dementia somewhere. They don't see those people. They don't care about them. What they care about is the longevity and the gravy train fucking rolling along. And if they think they're going to get taken down in court, they're going to do what they have to do to stop it. But I don't think they'll do anything out of the goodness of their hearts.
Well, I think it's in marketing, too. They're going to have to appeal to their fan base, which is where I grew up, Southwest Ohio, the flyover states,
of course,
where weed's not legal.
Right.
And it's still stigmatized.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a delicate way they can do without endorsing marijuana. They don't have to do that. They can just say, hey, we're doing research on these issues. CBD is one of them. No one will care.
Yeah.
Take it off the banned substance list. No one will care.
How about, hey, guys.
Actually, that will mean fewer people testing positive, so no more news about weed.
Yeah.
It's in their best interest.
Agreed.
I think.
And I think if you present it as a medicine,
which it is.
Yeah, and it most absolutely is. I think meditation should definitely be picked up by the league. I think teams would be smart to incorporate.
But teams here's the thing. Here's the reason why weed is going to be hard for the league, because it makes you think. It makes you pick apart the system.
Most guys,
it's anti-authoritarian, and meditation might be the same way.
Yeah.
It separates you from the power structure that is oppressing you,
which
is sitting in front of you telling you to meditate. What the fuck?
A huge mind fuck there.
Yeah.
I do want to address that point, because I think you can tailor meditation to what you need. But this is actually a riff within the meditation community. So when they're plugging and playing these programs, in Fortune 500 companies, and maybe in ultra-competitive environments that don't have the best outcomes for everybody, and they're just using mindfulness as a tool to accelerate whatever they're doing, it lacks a central component, which is love and compassion practice. And when that more holistic, closer to the authentic practice is really important. So there's varying sects of opinion within the meditation community, whether you can just plug and play a simple mindfulness program, or if it's important to always integrate the more holistic, like what Nate's referring to, the type of stuff that makes you discover more who you are and more what's going on around you.
For sure. Well, I think that the NFL would very much appreciate it as an acceleratory tool. But that would be beneficial to the guys.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that anything you can get, and you know what, man, guys are going to discover that side of the shit too, because guys are going to fall in love with meditating, go home, Google it, figure out, I should meditate on love and compassion. Next thing you know, they're looking at practice like, why the fuck am I going to go hit that dude as hard as I possibly can?
Or what if it made everyone better football players? Then they would get behind it. What if?
I think it will.
What if allowing cannabis in made them better football players, made them better teams, made them recover faster from injury? Because injury, the speed at which you heal in the NFL determines whether you have a job, and how healthy the team is, and all that. And so, I personally believe that when you medicate with cannabis after an injury, you heal faster than when you do pills.
No doubt about it.
I slept better.
Not allowing it. Why are they afraid of?
What's that?
What's their fears of not allowing it?
Marijuana?
Yeah.
Well, it's like Chris was saying, it's still illegal, federally illegal.
Yeah.
And a lot of their bread is buttered in some places where the illegality of marijuana
alcohol.
is like, there's political reasons why it's illegal.
Right.
Yeah, where's Jeff Sessions from? Alabama.
Right.
He wants to overturn. He wants to go after marijuana.
Yeah.
That's the issue in my mind.
He wants to go after affirmative action too.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah, right.
That's another show.
How are we on time?
About 45 minutes.
Cool.
Boom.
Let's see.
Well.
Yeah, it's a good spot to stop it.
Yeah, sure. That was a
tight pod, but it was
tight
nice.
pod. You have anything else you want to share, Chris?
I think that was great. I'm sorry I couldn't go an hour with you guys.
No. We
it's
hit a lot
really
of
about a
different
flow.
stuff.
Yeah, it felt good.
How were just one last thought? How were the Toradol shots? Were you getting Toradol shots that year in San Francisco? Were they giving them out?
Yeah, it was pills
lot of
by that
pills?
time.
Toradol pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got those, and we did those in college too.
See, I never got Toradol in college. That blows my mind.
Did you use cannabis in the pros?
No.
Right. What percentage of the locker room do you think it was?
Oh,
Half?
In San Fran?
at least a third, up to 2/3. Definitely around half. I would
I would say half.
guess.
Because my use when I played was I would fall into the category of people who might not assume that I smoked.
Yeah.
Like Rod Smith, my buddy, who's like this venerable old wide receiver. He was the old vet, and I was young. And after our careers were over, and I started doing this cannabis advocacy, he's like, "Damn, Nate, you was smoking weed that whole time? I didn't know that, man." So I actually did use it medicinally. I was at home when I was hurting, when I was injured.
Yeah.
And that's what I was using instead of the pills they were giving me. I didn't like the pills, and I never have.
We're in the midst of an opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
So to have alternatives that don't have as adverse of side effects is vital.
Well, that might be part of the NFL's motivation to reach out about the pain management and the marijuana is the opioid epidemic, because Congress is putting designs on some pretty aggressive measures to try to stop this shit from happening, because it's happening in the heartland. Fucking, it's really bad in Ohio.
Yeah.
And so maybe the league is responding to that. They've been the target of DEA investigations, a lot of lawsuits about reckless dispensary of pills. So maybe it's the pill problem that they're seeing, because former players, if the players leave as drug addicts, that's a bad look for the league.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
And a fairly common experience.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of guys leave the league addicted to painkillers.
Yeah,
No doubt.
because a lot of times you leave with a severe injury.
Yeah.
You have an injury and you're gone.
Yeah.
Here's 3 refills of Vicodin, and Jimmy, good luck in life.
Yeah.
You've only been here 2 or 3 years, because the average career is what, 3 years?
Yeah.
3.5.
Yep.
So most of these guys, they leave with a drug. Well, I wouldn't say most leave with a drug addiction, but some of them do. Not a lot of money. The money's going to be gone relatively soon.
Yeah.
You know, that money is not a forever thing.
Yeah. And you may not know you're gone. So
You
you're-
don't know
yeah,
you're gone.
So
That's how it was for me.
Lots of guys that
Yeah.
have that like 1 or 3 year window. Some guys the rest of their life where they think they're working out.
There
Yeah.
is no
Yeah.
moment when it's like,
Staying
you had
ready.
that moment.
Yeah, mine was final. Like,
Yeah, you actually had
exactly.
the retirement.
Yeah.
You can say quit, but
No, you retired, man.
oh, thank you.
Retired from football.
You're retired.
Yeah, it was unique to have just a clean cut. But there's no me walking back into the locker room and saying hello to GMs.
No. But I mean, if you wanted to go play, that you would have a job tomorrow.
No way.
Yeah, you would.
I don't think so.
I think you would.
I don't think they'd let me back in.
No, they would fucking definitely let your ass back in, because it's a great story for the league.
Yeah,
the
they
guy
love that.
the guy who said it was wrong is now says it's
I
right.
came back.
I'm back.
I was wrong. Where's my jersey?
We won the Super Bowl.
I mean,
Came back.
that's what's out there for you if you wanted it. You know what I mean? But you have resolve that's very rare in this world, and the ability to walk away from what you know is wrong. For you, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I can say former players speaking candidly about the issue was helpful.
Yeah.
If there weren't guys like you and doing the work you've done, it'd be hard for a younger guy to even begin to look into these issues.
Thanks,
Well,
man.
it means a lot, man. Thank you.
It's really like everybody adding their opinion finally.
Exactly.
Because football is about shut up and play.
Yeah.
We
Shut
don't
the
need your
fuck up.
ideas. We don't need your creativity. You know, you're not
Oh,
supposed
you're
to.
a person outside of here? Fuck that.
Even inside of here, they don't ask you for your input about a play, about a technique, about what works for you. It's always just follow these orders. Take this medicine, do this, show up at this time. And so we don't even know how to express ourselves, or at least hadn't. And I think just every guy trying to tell his story is important. And that's why we brought you here, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you so
It's
much.
Big time.
It was a joy.
Yeah.
We really
Tell
appreciate
the name
it.
of your company again?
Yeah.
T Mindful, the letter T Mindful.
Do you have any kind of social media presence that you want
You have
to?
a website?
Not at this point. We're just working with these 3 groups now, but it'll be up shortly. It'll be tmindful.com.
Awesome.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you do, man, because you're a bright mind, a forward thinker, progressive, and there aren't a lot of them out there, and so you're blazing a trail. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah.
See ya.
See you next time on the Mindful Warrior.
Thanks for listening to the Mindful Warrior podcast, brought to you by Athletes for Care, a health and wellness resource for athletes of all ages. Don't miss out on Nate's books, Slow Getting Up and Fantasy Man. Be sure to check out BringTheHurt.com, a pain advocacy platform dedicated to alternative healing practices. Visit BeTrueOrganics.com for all of your CBD needs. Use promo code BRITAIN, all caps 10, for a 10% off discount.